Richard?
Yep. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Richard Dantas. I'm an engineer 3 with Applied Medical. The division I work in is surgical simulations. So we design tools that allow doctors to practice laparoscopic surgeries before they actually do it on a person. My background is in product design. I have a Bachelor of Science in Industrial Design, and I've basically spent my whole career in product design.
All right, wonderful. So Richard, leave your mic on because I'm going to start with you. This question was not one that we had pre-scripted last time, and it came up and I thought it was a great question. So I'm going to pose it for all of you. What do you wish someone had told you when you were at the beginning of your career?
For me, the biggest thing and the thing that I noticed the most with our new hires or anyone that I've hired is it's okay to not know. Far too often coming out of school, the whole premise of being in school is to be graded on and evaluated based upon what you've done and what you know. But the reality of my experience is that when you're first starting, you don't know anything. Basically, school has provided you the tools to be able to understand what the people above you and who are more experienced than you are going to be teaching you. But you really have to be willing to accept the fact that you don't know what's going on and take in the knowledge from the people who are trying to help you without fighting it.
Okay, wonderful. Mark, how about you?
Sure. Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I would have liked to have known is just to know that I would have to be flexible, be willing to take on just about any task, and just have the versatility of skills that I could use because it would help me later on in my career. So, kind of under the context of no job too small. I think sometimes, we have this idea of what work might be like when we first enter the workplace, but it doesn't always pan out that way. But I think if you've got the right attitude and you're willing to kind of take on whatever task you're asked to do, I think it really helps you kind of build your experience to continue to grow.
All right, wonderful. Thank you for that. Lisa, how about you?
I think for me, kind of building upon what Richard said about it's okay to not know everything going in, and how important it is to ask questions when you're not sure, and to go in and not feel like, sometimes they'll put you in over other people that have been in a company for years. And it's okay to ask them for information and not go in feeling like you have to know everything. You can learn from the people that are already there and that have been there, and they'll respect you and appreciate you more.
I think that's great advice. I started about 4 months ago as president of Vitalink, and there are people who've been at Vitalink for years and years and years, and I find their level of expertise, especially at, like at the programmatic level, to be much greater than mine, and I could not do my job without their advice. So I think that's fantastic. Abder?
Yeah, I think it builds on a lot of everybody else's comments, which is don't be afraid to speak your mind at work. Your age has nothing to do with how far or how successful you can be at work. I think the idea is to add value in every conversation you have. Don't just talk for the sake of talking, but if you do have something to say that you believe will add value, you say it, and you say it proud, and you say it with authority. That's the only way people will listen to you. There's certain leaders out there that will bring it out of you, but a lot of times in a meeting, it's so hectic that people don't have time to really think that way. So, be forward, speak your mind, and good things will come.
All right, wonderful. I'm going to stick with you because I noticed in your bio, you had mentioned you're very interested in helping people understand career paths and what they need in terms of education. But one of the questions that came up last time that I thought was a really good one that we want to ask today is, what are the requirements to get into the industry? Most employers want experience, yet we can't get experience if no one will give us a chance. What can improve our chances because even internships are difficult to obtain?
Sure. That's a great question. Ironically speaking, for me, I had no internships prior to going into the workforce. However, I think the strategy of what courses you take, the strategy of, depending on the industry you're in, right? Speaking engineering perspective from electrical engineering, which is my background, a master's brings a lot of weight nowadays. Focusing on something that you're passionate about, doing some research, it automatically gives you a step up, right? Now, that does not guarantee you work. So in addition to that, how do you get involved is you must join professional organizations. In professional organizations, you're able to meet so many people from industry. And it's almost, you're doubling your chances by just joining those organizations, being active, shaking people's hand, putting yourself out there, asking questions. If you're in the background, believe me, nobody's gonna walk up to you and say, hey, do you want a job? So you must be forthcoming, you must be willing to take that initiative. But I would say, a master's is heavily, I encourage everybody that I know, even my own employees, to go do a master's, because I think it does give them some leverage in the industry. And second of all, being in organizations, professional organizations.
Okay. All right. So I'm not going to go through every question for every one of you, but what I would say is I'd open it up and say, do any of the rest of you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, Brian, I just want to encourage the students out there as they're going to school, if they can get a job in any related area of an industry that they're interested in, that taking on, whether it's an internship or just an entry-level job, working for a company, and just understanding things from a very basic level is going to help them as they progress. And as they learn more about an industry or a given profession, I think it's just going to add to their knowledge when they're going to school, when they're taking courses. It's just going to be a lot more.
Okay, wonderful. Lisa or Richard, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I was going to add just any networking type events, professional organizations like Apple said, as well as career fairs at the school. Make sure you participate in those. That's how I got a co-op with General Motors, was through like one of the career fairs way back when I was in school. And my background is electrical engineering as well. But when I started out, I had no idea what I was going to do with that degree. But I got that opportunity, and even though I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, I took it, and then I've been on that path ever since. So, sometimes you don't always, or you don't already know what you're going to do with that engineering degree, but start somewhere, because it's amazing the areas you can branch off with. Even if you're electrical or mechanical, sometimes you end up on the same path. So just, career fairs. Wonderful.
Great advice. Richard, do you have anything to add? Okay, so I'm going to stick with you though, Richard. One of the questions that I really liked that came in was, what does a day look like in your job?
Yeah, so I think my day is a little different it's definitely changed throughout the years as I've progressed. Now my role is less sort of hands-on, defining things at a granular level. It's more mentoring and leading younger engineers to ensure they're going through processes and kind of thinking through problems correctly. So my day is very scattershot depending on the problems that I'm approached with throughout the day. But in general, it's you come in, you talk to everyone, see how they're doing, you have your list of things you try and accomplish, and then you spend the rest of the day putting out fires from people doing and getting themselves into situations where they're not sure what to do.
Okay. All right. Anybody else have anything to share with us on what your day looks like?
I can add just a tidbit.
Sure.
Being as a consultant, your day is very volatile. Every client has different needs, and so the good thing, the thing I love solving problems. And I have a team that report to me, but I also have a technical project that I'm leading, and so various problems throughout the day. Keeping me on my toes. I think it's great, and I get to be in innovation. So all these new technologies coming out, I get to try them out, bring vendors, and do such things. So it's pretty fun.
All right, wonderful. Okay. Anybody else have anything to add?
I wanted to add, Mark mentioned flexible at the very beginning. I think flexible is key. Like whatever plans we have for the day will change very quickly depending on what issues have come up. So your best laid plans very rarely unfold in the way that you expect. So if your mindset is too rigid in terms of what you want to accomplish, it becomes very difficult to make that move and work on something else.
Okay. But you do plan out your day each day.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Okay.
just the ability to hold to that schedule very rarely happens now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's and I would imagine in the era of COVID-19 for all of us, that flexibility has been something that's very critical. One of the other the theme of this is hireability and skills in the era of COVID-19. And Mark, one of the things I'd like to ask you is, where do you think the industry or your company is heading in terms of hiring and skills in this era? Is there a new normal? And I guess what I would say for the students is, what's it going to look like in a few years for some of these students? Because we have some high schoolers who are going to go off to college. Any thoughts on that?
Well, certainly if this situation had happened even 10 years ago, we wouldn't have been as well prepared to do things virtually the way we are now and work remotely. But fortunately, with the technology available, like the technology we're using right now, it's really opened up, some opportunities for us to work pretty effectively remotely. So when we're an essential business, so we support biomedical manufacturing, aerospace, automotive, defense, and so we actually had customers sending us letters asking if we were going to continue to be able to support them during this time of stay at home. And we were committed to doing that. What we did is we moved about half of our workforce, or those that could work remotely, we set them up so that they could work from home. We still actually have several individuals still functioning that way, and primarily because they're actually able to be very productive. So it comes down to kind of personal time management skills when you have that kind of freedom and flexibility. But as an example, our engineering team was able to work remotely for about 3 months. And we, all of our meetings were on a GoToMeeting or Zoom type platform. It was actually quite effective because we could share documents and drawings, and we actually was very productive. So kind of honing those skills and trying to get the most out of a virtual meeting platform is really important. And I think it's easy to maybe lose focus during some of these remote sessions and feel a little disconnected. So anything you can do to stay connected with your team, I think, is really, really important. That said, there is no substitute for being in the building working on a project, because from an engineering standpoint, at least for what we do, we have to make something. And that's not going to be made virtually. So we have to actually, at some point in time, figure a way to be able to get back on site and make that happen. But I think a lot of the students today are going to be well equipped from a standpoint of working remotely. So that'll serve them well.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up. I had this discussion on a webinar I was on last week about whether that's a new skill set, right? Being able to work, be effective, and be a competent collaborator and teammate while you're working remotely. Because I think historically a lot of employers have looked at it and said, this won't work if we're remote. And now I think we're learning some lessons from that, which kind of leads into my next question. So thank you for that. But what are the remote working skills that you see are required? Lisa, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, okay, for my company, since I'm a systems integrator, and we do software development and electrical design for various industries and manufacturing, this was kind of not much of a change for me, because I can work remotely with all of my clients that have like a remote or a VPN setup for companies like myself. So we generally only need to work on the servers. So they set up the virtual, the remote connections for us, and we're able to go in and do all our software development on their servers. So I think just in my industry for electrical engineering and software development, some of the base programs that we use for manufacturing, whether it's Allen Bradley or Wonderware or other software like that, and of course, like the meeting software and things like that. Nothing special, but what we already know. So we were kind of already set up to work like this. So it wasn't a big change for me and my company, because this is how we typically work remotely, unless we're starting up equipment and then we go on site.
Okay. Richard, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I actually found like Lisa was saying earlier, that the ability to ask questions is very important working from home.
Okay.
The biggest difficulty with working from home is the clarity of the conversations. You don't get to read each other's body language. We typically turn our cameras off. So, you can also be in a point where you're talking quieter because there's a baby in the house or something. So you don't pick up on the body cues, the voice inflections, the general, everything that builds up in a normal conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also found that the engineers who report to me currently are much younger. They're all within 6 months of graduating. And I was actually surprised the group within our team who's had the hardest time transitioning to work from home are the young engineers, because they're so connected all the time. Not having the social interaction has actually started to affect their work.
Okay.
So I think a big thing of emphasis to understand that, just because we're not seeing each other every day doesn't mean we're not connected. But the conversation around that has been harder, in my experience, for our younger engineers to realize that we can always call each other, we can always see each other in video chat, we can text, but you have to initialize. It's not just going to happen naturally, like when you're in an office environment where you can see the other person.
Mm-hmm. Okay. One of the questions that just came in was, are people more effective when working from home, and will there be an advantage to working from home? Abdur, you have any thoughts on that?
So I want to address the last question, because it tags on to this one, kind of. But what I would say is communication skills, written communication skills, constantly over communicating, meaning, sending emails, hey, here's what I'm doing today, to your managers, because a manager, if they can put a trust in you, but if you don't communicate, at some point, they're going to start, wondering what's going on over there. Right. And so the last thing you want to do is wait a whole 2 weeks and then, you update them with bad news or whatever. So that communication keeps that line going, right? And the other one is being organized. I think Mark brought it up earlier, which is really being organized, waking up in the morning, don't work in your pajamas, change your clothes, that mental mindset, because at some point you're going to go back, right? And so when you do go back, how does it look? Are you going to be comfortable? So you need to kind of maintain some sort of, something close to the workplace, right? So now I guess getting to the actual question, he says, are people more effective when working from home? What I'll say is, it does depend. If you are organized, if you do communicate, I think you can be more effective working from home. I think working from home brings you more clarity. You're more focused. You don't have as many side conversations, right? Now, I don't have any kids. So if I had kids, it might be a different story. I have some coworkers who constantly, have to worry about, the kid running around, running into so, those things do make a difference. Now, as younger generations that maybe don't have kids, I think it's a little bit more easier. I'm not speaking for everybody, by the way. This is my perspective. Advantage working from home, like I said, I think besides the fact that you can focus more, I think you're able to save time from traffic, spending, an hour on traffic, that reduces stress. And so you can focus more on your health by walking more. So there's a lot of benefits there too.
So who's working from home right now of you? Okay. Do you miss the office?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Lisa, do you miss the office?
I don't, because like I said, like normal.
Oh, that's right. You were already working from home. Okay. All right. And Richard, you said you do or don't?
I do not miss the office, but although I'm in an engineering role, I'm also a product designer. So more creative. And I found just working from home and being able to put in hours as I see fit has made me more productive at home.
Okay.
It's one of those hard things that's difficult about development type work is you can spend hours not making any progress and then knock over a bunch of goalposts in 20 minutes.
Mm.
But within a business environment at a cubicle, you'll try and grind away at problems and not make progress. Whereas I'm at home, if it's flustering me, I'll go for a walk, I'll make lunch, do something. And then you can come back and in 20 minutes accomplish more than I would have done in 4 hours in the office. So for me, it's actually increased my productivity and I like it. But I'm also in the R&D field where our kind of granular schedule of accomplishment isn't linear. So it fits our roles better.
Okay. Mark, do you have employees who are working from home, or is everyone at the office now?
No, we still have people working from home.
Okay.
And what I think this time has taught me is that people can be pretty effective working remotely. And a lot of things that Abner said about, not having the commute is really a time saver and it reduces stress. So, I'm very open now to having people work remotely. We have a person who's working in marketing, and every day we have a check-in virtual, GoToMeeting, web meeting like this, and we review the projects, and it's reduced the interruptions tremendously for that role, for that person, and it's saved them close to an hour drive each way. So from that standpoint, it really has opened my eyes to where it can be more productive. So many people do like the separation between their home space and their workspace. So, it's always trade-offs, right? But for the right person and the right job, it can be hugely productive. I actually split my time from working some from home and then some from the office, but in my role, I need to be accessible to people. And so it changes a little bit that way.
Okay. All right. One of the common refrains that we at VitaLink here, and I know Raquel from Santa Ana College and I have had this discussion, is for students trying to network and find mentors in the field. Any recommendations on that, Lisa? You want to take this?
Again, I would say the professional organizations.
Okay.
The LinkedIn, I think, is a good source to go on and, sometimes connecting with smaller companies like myself. I may be a small business, but I have a huge network. I've worked with a lot of companies, a lot of people. And so if I can't help them, myself, I can definitely put them in contact with someone else. So, maybe even reaching out to people on the panel, we can help them in contact with, fit them up with people that are, good for them.
Sure. Yeah, I had this discussion with someone who's going to be speaking at a future event that we're doing this fall, and he is trying to flip the script on internships and mentoring, and his focus is to try and teach students to go out and find them themselves rather than relying strictly on the college. Because a college with 30,000 students is going to have a really hard time finding 30,000 internships, right? And so it can be a real challenge. And certainly for you as businesses, the amount of incoming calls from all of the community colleges and high schools and 4 years saying, hey, do you have any internships? I know can be a little overwhelming. And so, I like this. I like the idea of students getting started with LinkedIn now to do this themselves. I have a daughter who's a senior in college, and I actually helped her set up her LinkedIn profile last year as a junior because I thought it was going to be so important for her as she moves into a world where in college to look for internships, and because that's where we all are, that's where she needs to be. So I think that's great advice. Anybody else have any thoughts on that?
I would say use the people that are close to you, which is your professors. If you are studying in the field of engineering, your professors will be more than happy to connect to you. They're very well connected, believe it or not. And if in parallel though, LinkedIn is amazing. Professional networks are amazing, and I myself would love to help you guys out as Lisa. So I'm more than willing to help out.
Wonderful. Yeah, one of the things that I tell students, and I've been a professor at another university, is to not ask for help, but also to be judicious about it, right? You know, so there is a line that you can cross, right? And so I think if students are smart about it, and try and find a way also to help the person they're asking for help from, that can be very beneficial. Anybody else have any thoughts on finding mentors and internships? Yeah, Mark.
One thing that I found hugely useful in going to school was organizations that I had an interest in. And I was a member of the SAE group, which we were building the off-road mini Baja race cars. And I had a passion in that, and it really allowed me to network with a lot of the other students and professors and then people from industry. And one thing led to another, and it just, you know, it really, because I was so driven because I had a passion for motorsports, it really, you know, gave me some great experience and connected me with a lot of people. So joining organizations like that, you know, whatever they might be, you know, like the Mars Lunar Rover that they have going on at Cal State Fullerton and Formula SAE and a lot of other programs I'm not familiar with, but those clubs and groups can really be a launching pad.
Okay, wonderful. Looks like Lisa lost her connection, so hopefully she'll be joining us. One of you had mentioned earlier, you know, the idea of being, you know, not just sitting around and letting someone come into you, but being proactive versus reactive. And certainly, you know, I think that's one thing that students can do as well. You know, you have to, we as business people, we're busy, and so we're probably going to be more likely to respond to people who are proactive, rather than just sitting around waiting for it to happen. One of the kind of similar to this is a question about interviewing. And so, you know, one student asked, what can I do to prepare myself for interviews in this field? Do you have any tips or past experiences that you find valuable? Richard, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, so this one's kind of near and dear to me because I interview a lot of people. And I think the big thing that I noticed that kills people's chances is that what's really important for us when we're asking you questions is that we're purposely trying to challenge a lot of people, not necessarily about, you know, their accomplishments, but the why. So we'll have a lot of interviewees will like to come in, speak to their resume about the things they've accomplished, right? But what we found is that what you've accomplished isn't as important per se as understanding why you did the work you did on those projects. So someone accomplishing like, hey, I designed this bracket to hold this piece on a car, right? And the root of their knowledge of that is I accomplished this is not as nice, is not as strong a prospective candidate as someone who goes, well, I did my best to design this bracket, but we didn't finish it. But the reason we didn't finish it is because I had these challenges in front of me. And within the context of the interview, I think based on how schools in general grade students, or being a student being graded on your efficacy and productivity within the context of being graded, they fail to establish why they did stuff and talk solely about their accomplishments. Okay. So if I were to give a tip is to emphasize why you did things, what your thought process was, because those things end up mattering more when you're actually working with us than what you've accomplished, because your accomplishments in the grand scheme of things, they're just going to get better throughout your career. So what you accomplished in the school is going to be pretty minor. But the understanding you did during your project is what's going to carry you throughout the rest of your career, because you'll be able to apply that why to everything you do.
I think that's great advice. Lisa, do you have anything to, you know, actually, Lisa, did you hear you probably didn't hear the question. The question was, what can I do to prepare myself for interviews in this field? Do you have any tips or past experiences you find valuable?
I mean, always do your research on the company, and I'm sure I'm saying something that someone else probably already said that I missed. That's the main thing, to do your research on the company, know the position that you're. Be personable, you know, be real and be personable.
Okay. All right. Authenticity matters, doesn't it? Especially in an interview. You know, we're trying to decide if we want you to come work for our company and if you're going to be a good fit there. So we need to understand that. And so if you're not authentic and you end up getting hired, it you know, that's a tick mark against you if you're someone different than what you portrayed yourself as. So that, you know, Richard's answer kind of takes us into the area of soft skills, which is one of the top things that I hear. So what are the soft skills or, hireability, employability skills, whatever we want to call them, that you see as lacking in some employees as they're coming into the workforce? Mark, do you want to tackle this one first?
I too am a big believer in soft skills, because you could be the smartest person on the planet, but if you can't communicate your ideas or effectively sell your position on something, you're not going to get far. So I think EQ is as important as IQ is. So I think there's a lot of opportunities to learn soft skills, and they may not be necessarily taught in the classroom. So I would encourage everybody to find ways to improve their ability to communicate, find out what's important to the organization and the people you're working with, to help drive for a common goal, and just be flexible. Just be understanding of what pressures people are under, and just try to be a good team partner. And I think that goes a long way towards being part of an organization.
Wonderful. Abner, do you have anything to add to that?
I would say a few things. One is communication. That's the biggest one. Being able to explain something very complex in a very simple way. We all do things that's very complex. We're all smart in our own way. However, if you cannot communicate what you are doing effectively to every single person, pick up somebody in high school, right, or college, and explain to them what you do, right? If you're not able to explain it to them effectively, then know that you have a lot of work to do. So that's one soft skill. Another one is emotional intelligence. A lot of engineers are known to be very aloof, right? They're to themselves, they don't talk, they're not approachable, right? How do you set yourself apart from everybody else? Well, you do the opposite. You become approachable. You're smiling, you're communicating with people. Also, you're reading people as you're talking to somebody, right? And you must read their emotions. You must read their face. You must read their gestures, everything, to be able to adjust your conversation and your tone and your message, right, as you're talking. Mm-hmm. So that's a skill that's built over time. Some people are born with it. Some people are not. But I think the matter is working on that skill set. I think will serve you very well. Any characteristic of a leader is emotional intelligence. I'm sure a lot of you guys know about that, but yeah, I think those are the top two for me.
Okay. Yeah. And if emotional intelligence is a new term for you, go look it up, go watch YouTube videos on it, go to LinkedIn Learning, go somewhere, or take a class on it. I know some of the community colleges offer some programs around that. It can be very, very important. So sticking with soft skills, Lisa or Richard, do you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, I was going to build on what Abder said. For like within our organization and the way we interview, the soft skill that we noticed the most that's lacking for the people we choose not to hire is a level of humility. So the cold hard truth is we tend to interview people who are high performers because they have the resumes and they've done the things that will get you noticed. The flip side to that, though, is when you're actually being interviewed, everything you've accomplished has still put you far below most people in the room in terms of what they've accomplished or what they even do every single day. So in my opinion, when you come into an interview with that level of people interviewing you and you start talking like you're the greatest thing since sliced bread, it's a turnoff because you're lacking that emotional intelligence and even just a basic understanding of what's going on, right? But if you come in being very personable, like Abder said, and sharing the fact that, hey, you know what, engineering school wasn't easy, right? We've all struggled through it. None of that stuff was great. If you come in talking about the struggles you had, the things you had to overcome, what you learned from it, and how you can apply that moving forward, you're a much stronger candidate for us than the 5.0 GPA person who designed a car and built it and comes in going, no, my college time was perfect. I did all this and I wouldn't change a thing. Well, okay, you accomplished a lot in college, but that doesn't mean you're going to accomplish those things here. The situation is completely different. And more so to the point, part of what's made people great engineers, designers, is typically been a willingness to continuously improve upon what you're doing. So once you come across as, hey, I've done it, I've got it, I'm good, well, it doesn't endear you to the people interviewing you, in my opinion.
All right, great advice. Lisa, do you have anything else to add? Okay, all right, wonderful. A lot of great advice there. So take a lot of that to heart. There's some really good information. So Lisa, I'm going to ask you this one. What is the greatest difficulty you face in your job?
Probably it would be generating new business, probably for me in particular, because I'm a small business. I have to go in and build relationships with the customers and then build the trust with them. And that would open doors for additional business. So for me, that's the hardest part. I've been doing this type of work, automation, for like 27 years. So the work is pretty easy. That and then staying up on new technology. Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's always changing. So it's just staying, with what's new, what's current, and keeping myself educated.
Okay. And how do you do that? So where do you find that information?
Well, so in my field of automation, the companies that make the software and things like that, they're constantly offering training and new products and new training. So I just stay in touch with them, and I attend their workshops, their seminars, and that's what I do. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Mark, what's the greatest difficulty you face in your job?
There's a couple of them, but I think the one thing that stands out for me right now is continuing to maintain a focus of being a competitive manufacturing operation in California. Every industry is competitive, and we're no different, and we have foreign competition. And so for us, it's a matter of building a product that is cost effective, that we can be competitive with in the market. We're continually striving to make sure that we're producing the best product at the best price. So that's one of the big ones. Okay.
And adding on to what Lisa talked about, how do you stay abreast of the most current technology and keep yourself up to date?
A lot of it comes from talking with our customers, talking with our sales team that's in the field. We're also part of some of the organizations that help set standards for the industry for measuring instruments, which is a subgroup from ANSI. And so, those are the kind of things that we do. We're just engaged with our customers. Our vendors help bring us information. Oftentimes when we have new people join the company, they also bring some information with them from their background. So we try not to get too pigeonholed as far as thinking that the only way we do that, the way we're doing it now is the best way to do it. And then also trying to understand what is important. So we've actually done surveys of our customers, finding out what kind of technology is important to them. We've hired consultants that will go out and objectively put together some questions where we actually go out to a lot of our key users to find out what things are important for them. Matter of fact, we just a couple months ago finished a study like that. So we interviewed about 30 key contacts, customers, and distributors to find out what things were important to them in this product area.
Okay. After I guess the same question to you on the last part of that was, staying abreast of current technology. How do you do it, and how can current students do it?
So staying abreast for technology, I think in addition to professional societies, again, there's a lot of benefits to that because they do a lot of presentations, right? Going to these trade shows, conferences, right? That's a big thing. I've learned to love these conferences and trade shows. I'm very active in different task forces to help drive innovation forward. When you join those task forces, initially you're just listening, right? You don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You're listening, you're learning, you're talking, you're connecting with others. And as time goes, you're able to contribute based on your knowledge and your expertise. You contribute knowledge, right? So when you attend those, I think that's a big thing. But in addition, you have the internet, right? Google is an amazing tool, right? So you go and you at least I would say implore people to every week look up one topic and just read a few articles on that topic. pick up a topic of choice and read a few articles. And not just that, but go and share it with others, your colleagues, your manager, right? When you share information, you learn it at a much faster rate. You're testing yourself, right? No, you have to prepare, you have to pay attention to the articles you're reading now, because now you have to share with others, right? So you want to look like you know what you're talking about. So what I would say is that's how I would recommend, depending on your field, be involved, read up online, and you know, be active in your community. So.
Okay. All right. Richard, do you have any last thoughts on that question?
Yeah, I would say just enjoy the company of people outside of your major, your sphere of influence. It's surprising how much you can pick up from other people in different industries that you can apply to your own. Okay.
All right. So we have a couple minutes left. What I would like to do is ask if any of you have is there anything in any particular piece of advice or anything you'd like to add? Mark?
No, I think there's been a lot of great things said here. I think, you know, today what sets you apart is definitely having those soft skills that we were speaking about earlier, along with the technical knowledge. And I heard something good the other day that I'll pass along, and it was something like, you know, it's not what you know, it's who you know, but it's more than that. It's who you impress. So I think, you know, Abder made some comments about that, about, you know, working with people and how you interact. And I think that it's really, really important that we're all mindful, students are mindful about everybody they come in contact with could be an influencer. And so they need to be mindful of that.
Okay, wonderful. Great advice. Abder?
Yes. So first of all, again, thank you for the invite. I hope everybody, you know, got something out of this, because I did. But I think the best thing for me, I would say, is nothing beats passion. Passion will drive you to the moon, right? It's not your race, it's not your gender, it's nothing like that. It's all about passion, right? If you have the right passion, people will see that passion, and they'll open up doors for you. They'll give you the key to make it to be successful. And I've had that opportunity in my life where I developed that passion for power systems, right? And that passion has got me to where I am today. And I'm not saying I'm at the moon, but what I'm saying is, you know, there's a trajectory, and you see that trajectory, I think, in front of a lot of different people. And so, you know, passion will drive you, but do what you're passionate about. Don't do things just because they pay you a lot of money, right? Be very mindful of what you pick, what major you pick, what jobs you pick, but also just have that passion and make sure it's always there in every job you do.
Wonderful. Richard?
I agree with Abder. I think what you're passionate about allows you to do things you wouldn't otherwise have thought you could do. I mean, I wanted to be an English major who went to engineering school, finished at art school with a design degree, and now I'm in charge of a bunch of engineers designing surgical simulation tools. So, but the only thing that was true about all of that was I was passionate about design and being creative, and that's where it took me. So your willingness to do things are just on another level when you're doing something you're passionate about.
All right, fantastic. And Lisa, you want to take us home?
Sure thing. I agree with the passion, but sometimes, you know, some of us may not know what our passion is up front. So it's important to just start somewhere. And as you start, you know, hopefully you'll find your passion as you work towards, you know, as you work towards your different goals. So I think that's one thing. And also it's a different era today. We have social media. We have so many different platforms where you can reach out and talk to people. So I just encourage everyone to not be shy and reach out and reach out to people on LinkedIn, and look at LinkedIn. They post internships there and everything. So use the tools that are in place now. We didn't have all those tools back in the day. So we were a little more limited, but we have so much now. So just use all the tools that you have today.
All right, wonderful. Well, panelists, thank you so very much for, this was really fantastic. So thank you for sharing your knowledge and your advice and your expertise with us. With that, we're going to ask you to turn off your cameras, and then we will move on to the next part. where I'm going to introduce Craig Takahashi from Santa Ana College. Craig, if you want to join us by turning on your camera.
Hold on a minute. Can you guys hear me okay?
We can.
Hello? All right.
Yes.
I'll start video here. Actually,
And you're
more than
going-
anything, I kind of wanted to show off the web. I don't think anybody needs to see me.
Okay. So I'm going to mute
Could I go
myself
ahead
and
and
turn
share
off
my
my
screen?
camera. Yep. I will. I'll turn off my
I'm
camera
gonna
and mute. Yep. It's all yours.
So the main representatives, which is fantastic. I don't know how many students are here. I guess I'll assume yes. I don't hear anything. Anyways, so I was asked to talk about the engineering program at Santa Ana College. I've been working hard on the engineering webpage. So if you go to sac.edu/engineering or ENGR, it bounces you to our webpage, and I've tried to put all the information about our department there. We provide courses and program work for students who plan to transfer to the university and obtain their bachelor's degree to become engineers. And we have a lot of career education programs as well, primarily in the areas of engineering technology and in drafting technology, and primarily in the areas of mechanical and civil engineering, a little bit of electrical. And those three areas represent, of course, the major fields of engineering. It's tough for us to specialize in things like chemical engineering and things of that nature because we just don't get enough students. Since, I just finished my 13th year here at Santa Ana, and it's the issues we have are very different than those at the university. At the university, they seem to have students coming out of their ears. They have not enough space to put them all. But for us, we're always trying to get more students. So, and we have to have a certain minimum enrollment. So things that don't have enough students, we can't really keep those programs. But so I've got a homepage here that sort of summarizes. We have some pictures of students doing some cool stuff. But and we'll talk about bridge engineering too. But and I added a little thing about what engineers are about and the things you might want to do with it. If you're the sort of person who loves taking things apart and figuring out how they work, that might be for you. If you're going to be an engineer, though, you're going to need a bachelor's degree. So you can start at Santa Ana, but you're going to have to transfer. And you're probably going to be taking a lot of physics and math, all this foundational science stuff. And engineering is a wonky field. You really don't take a lot of engineering coursework the first couple of years. I mean, there's a handful, but and for some of our students, a bachelor's degree maybe just isn't an option. And so maybe becoming a technician, an engineering technician or drafter is maybe a little more realistic for you because you can finish up faster. So I highlight that here. And then I did some, on this page, I focus on the sort of money you can make if you're an engineer. If you look up the Bureau of Labor Statistics, they'll mention that engineers are among the highest paid of college graduates. The median salary in California is over $100,000 a year. And these are the numbers I pulled from the EDD site, the Employment Development Department for California. And if you're going to be a transfer student, we have an engineering associate degree. The programs that I'm showing you here are, and it's not official yet, but as soon as fall starts, this is what's going to happen. And I've tried to make it a lot more flexible than what we've had in the past. But the key here is you're primarily looking at math and physics, and then a variety of choices for engineering and engineering-related coursework in order to complete the associate degree. And I remind you that you also need to take your gen ed as well, which is about 30 units in that range. But I put a list here of suggested courses you might want to take if you're a mechanical engineering major, if you're a civil, or if you're an electrical major. So the rest of these are all career education stuff. A lot of, I'll start with technology. We've got a civil engineering technology program. They're still doing a lot of drafting, AutoCAD and drafting and that sort of thing, but on top of it, you're doing some surveying and geology. So, you've seen those folks out with these little tribe, that sort of thing. So, in mechanical, I decided to do graduate work, and I thought everybody knows everything is becoming automated these days. So I tried to put a program together where you'd learn a little bit of drafting in CAD, but really the focus is to learn how to work with these sort of electronically or computer controlled machines. And we're mainly working with uh, academic level stuff like Arduino, such as stereolithography, machine 3D printing. We have a couple of CNC machines and things of that nature, but all of those are sort of reflective of this sort of automation and computer controlled equipment. So, our message to students is don't choose a career that a machine can do, because if you do, you'll find yourself not having a career very, very quickly. So, and the rest of our again, it's either mechanical or Creo, but had to cancel those. It wasn't getting enough students. And then in civil engineering, or civil drafting, it'll programs here that you can kind of check out. So courses, I tried to put a list of all our courses that appear in the catalog, and I tried to put down when we tend to offer them without any guarantees. I also put down the schedule for next year. Again, it's tentative, but that way the students can kind of sort of plan out what they think they might be able to take. We have brochures that you'll see around campus. I posted those, as well as catalog excerpts from our courses and our programs. We have a page here with our faculty and staff. There's me. Temo is one of our he's been around longer than me at Santa Ana, teaches AutoCAD. Carlos, I believe, works for either Caltrans or the city of Santa Ana. Brooke teaches our CATIA class. Juan, we just picked up. Juan's been fantastic. He's a civil engineer who knows a lot of different CAD programs, and he teaches our surveying as well. Wanted to focus on our bridge to engineering program a little bit. It's a program that we've had going for a few years now. Myra Perez is in charge of it. So if you're a student and you want to be sort of transfer focused, this program, you're admitted into the program based on an interview that Myra does with you. There's a lot of availability for site visits to universities and companies and things of that nature, and supplemental instruction support. So we think it's gone really, really well. So finally, the last thing I wanted to bring up is where are we at? Our facilities and rooms. Right now we have 3 rooms. We have a CAD lab, we have a lab for doing our mechatronics work, and we have a classroom. But we're excited that maybe in the spring we have a laboratory space that we'll be getting in the new science center. On top of the equipment we've already got in this room, which I highlight here, I think we're going to be getting a FANUC robot. It's a small robot arm, but FANUC is one of the top robotics companies in the world. We'll be getting a PLC controller educational device, so you can learn some ladder logic and things of that nature. So, so we'll be really excited. Hopefully you'll learn some stuff that will land you work. So, and again, if you're not sure and you want to talk to me, on the front page here is my information right there. There's my email and my phone number. By the way, these spotlights here are students who are in our Bridge to Engineering program who have landed full-time jobs, I believe, so at Northrop Grumman. So, that's why we're really happy about that program. I'm also here on the faculty page. So if you go to the faculty page, I'm at the top here. I have a website, and there's my email. So contact me if you have any questions at all. So I appreciate your time. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you to all of the panelists who joined us for this engineering panel.